While I was at work, my SIL and her husband broke into my new house to move in their furniture, but I forgot to tell them I had signed up with ADT Home Security. So immediately a loud alarm went off, and after that, well, let's go. Pay me compensation. What you did hurt me so badly. As I listened to the piercing scream of my sister-in-law coming through the phone, something inside me finally snapped. Just moments ago, I was watching through the screen coldly as she and her family panicked while being surrounded by the police. The place, my newly built home, the castle that was supposed to be mine. You've got to be kidding me. I quietly ended the call and tapped my lawyer's number. My name is Marielle Knox, and I'm 36 years old. I work as a financial director at a major corporation in the city. Since my 20s, I have been steadily saving and investing, and at last, this spring, I finally obtained the brand new house I had always dreamed of. I lived there with my husband, Damon, but the property title was registered under my name. What I took the most pride in was my study, seamlessly integrated with a smart home system. In the inner terrace, connecting the indoors and outdoors, surrounded by high walls that completely blocked outside eyes. Even on rainy days, spending quiet hours there reading alone was the greatest comfort for me. This was supposed to be the fruit of my hard work, my perfect castle where no one could disturb me. But that peace was soon to be threatened. A string of burglaries began occurring in the neighborhood. Without hesitation, I signed a contract with Shield, a major security company. An alarm system plus 5 high-performance cameras monitoring inside and outside the house. With this, I thought invaders from outside would be completely shut out. That's what I believed. But there was one thing I had carelessly overlooked. I had forgotten to tell my family about the existence of this flawless security system, especially since I had given spare keys to my husband and his relatives just in case of emergency. I had no idea then that the greatest threat was already lurking inside. That fateful day was just an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was in the middle of a quarterly budget meeting. While glaring at the numbers projected on a massive screen, I was exchanging points with each department head. My focus was entirely on work. So, when the phone in my pocket vibrated once softly, I didn't notice right away. When the meeting broke for a short recess and I casually picked up my phone, an unfamiliar notification icon caught my eye. It was from the Shield app. Intrusion detected at the front door. At first, I thought it must have been some kind of mistake, but then my heartbeat began to pound with a dreadful rhythm. When I opened the notification details, it clearly said unlocked with a duplicate key. The only people who had a spare key were my husband and his parents. And my husband was supposed to be overseas on a business trip. It was unthinkable that my in-laws would visit on a weekday afternoon without any notice. If that's the case, with trembling fingers, I tapped the Live View button on the Shield app. After a few seconds of loading, the camera feed from inside the front door appeared clearly on my screen. Standing there were, as I had feared, Brielle and her husband Corin. They must have gotten the key from my in-laws. "What are you doing?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. They casually took off their shoes as if it were their own home and stepped into the living room. Brielle dropped herself heavily onto my cherished designer sofa while Corin looked around the room, his eyes scanning as though appraising the value of everything inside. Then it happened. From the footage came a faint but steady electronic beeping sound. Beep beep beep. The entry delay warning. If the correct disarm code wasn't entered within 30 seconds of the door opening, the alarm would trigger. Of course they didn't know that. "What's that sound?" Brielle's confused voice came through my phone's speaker. "No idea, but your brother didn't mention anything, so it's fine, right?" Corin's carefree tone made my jaw tighten. I held my breath and stared at the screen. The 30-second countdown was about to begin. Beep beep beep. On the phone screen, the relentless countdown continued. Corin spotted the security panel on the wall and started pressing random buttons. Naturally, nothing happened. Brielle, looking uneasy, stood up and began pacing the living room. "Hey, are you sure this sound is okay?" And at that exact moment, a deafening alarm, over 100 decibels, exploded from the speakers of my phone, shaking the silence of my castle. On screen, Brielle and Corin literally jumped, clutching their ears and crouching down in panic. The sight was almost comical, but my anger had already surpassed laughter, quietly reaching its boiling point. Moments later, beneath the blaring alarm, a synthetic voice echoed from the security panel. "This is the monitoring center. Please respond. This is the monitoring center. Please respond." It was the type of system that allowed the staff to speak directly to whoever was inside the house. Corin cautiously stepped closer to the panel and pressed the call button. Yes. This is the CentraShield Monitoring Center. An alarm has been triggered. For safety verification, please state the name of the contract holder and the preset security phrase. The calm voice of the operator echoed throughout the entire house. On the screen, Corin froze completely. This is my brother's house. The security phrase. If the security phrase cannot be confirmed, we will contact the police in accordance with the contract. I repeat, please provide the security phrase. The mechanical voice repeated its demand, cold and unwavering. Corin stammered helplessly while Brielle only shook her head in silence. Watching their pitiful, utterly unprepared break-in unfold, I was certain they had completely underestimated my house. And then, after several seconds of silence, a new notification appeared on my phone. Security phrase mismatch confirmed. The local police department has been notified. Officers are on their way to the scene. Police. The moment I saw that word, my mind went blank. Beyond anger, beyond shock. What was happening inside my house? What were they trying to do? I burst out of the conference room and stood alone in the empty hallway, eyes locked on my phone screen. Work, the meeting. None of it mattered anymore because at that very moment, my castle was being violated by uninvited guests. The police were on their way. That fact alone made my chest tighten with a mix of fury and fear. Almost without realizing it, I swiped the screen to switch the feed to the exterior camera by the front door. The sight that appeared left me speechless. On the road in front of my house sat a small moving truck I had never seen before. The tailgate was wide open. Inside, the bed was loaded with household belongings, items clearly meant to be moved somewhere. A sofa, a mattress, a disassembled dining table, countless cardboard boxes. It was obvious that these were not belongings of temporary visitors. They were the cargo of people preparing to start a new life here. Things for moving in, plain and simple. At that moment, everything connected. Corin was a self-styled influencer with no real job, always short on money. Brielle, instead of losing patience with him, had joined him in repeatedly begging my husband and in-laws for money. And for the past few months, I had even been paying the rent for the apartment they were living in. Don't tell me they couldn't pay the rent anymore. So that's why they came to my house without any discussion, without permission, as if they were just moving into some vacant vacation home. I felt the rage surge all the way to the top of my head. This wasn't mere family dependence or carelessness. This was a calculated home invasion. That moment my phone vibrated. The number displayed was from the local police department. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to sound calm, and answered. "Hello, this is Marielle. This is Officer Darius Reed from the Brookdale Police Department. After the alarm at your residence notified us, we found Miss Brielle and Mr. Corin inside your home, and we are currently speaking with them. They claim to be your relatives and say they have your permission to start living there from today. Is that true?" The young officer's voice was businesslike, yet slightly uncertain. I bit my trembling lips, gathered every shred of composure I had left, and replied clearly, word for word, without a trace of hesitation. "No, that is not true. I had no knowledge they were coming to my house today, and I have certainly never given them permission to live there. They entered my home without consent using a spare key. They are trespassers." I heard the officer gasp softly on the other end. That calm, unwavering declaration. It was the sound of the first bell in a long battle that had just begun. After telling the police they are trespassers, my trembling finger tapped the next number on my screen. My husband's overseas phone number. He was supposed to be on a business trip in Lisbon. After several rings, he finally answered. his tone weary and indifferent. "Hello. What is it, Marielle? I'm with a client right now. This isn't the time for that. Something terrible has happened." I cut him off and hurriedly explained everything. That Brielle and Corin had entered our home without permission, that the alarm had gone off and the police were on the scene, that they were trying to move into our house as if it were theirs. I truly believed he would be angry, shocked, and ready to condemn his sister's reckless actions alongside me. No, perhaps I just wanted to believe that. But what came back through the lines shattered that fragile hope. His voice was unbearably relaxed, almost lazy. "Oh, that is it. Really something worth making such a fuss about." "What?" For a moment, I couldn't even understand what he meant. "Yeah, Brielle told me all about it. Apparently, Corin messed up at work again and got fired. They're getting evicted from their apartment, so she asked if they could stay at our place for a while." I said, "Sure, why not?" "You said what?" I could almost hear the sound of something snapping inside my head. "I didn't hear anything about that. Not from you, not from Brielle. Not a single word. I was going to tell you honestly, but you've been so tense with work lately. I thought I'd wait until things calmed down. Besides, what's the big deal? They're family. We've got a spare room, don't we? Just help them out." Help them out. Those words, so light, so careless, hit me like a slap in the face, as if I were the cold-hearted, selfish one here. To him, this house wasn't our home. It was like an extension of his parents' place, a guest house for his family to come and go as they pleased. Are you even listening to yourself? What they have done is trespassing. I've already reported it to the police. What? You called the police, Marielle? Are you crazy? Stop that right now. You're blowing this way out of proportion. And in that instant I finally understood. This man wasn't on my side. He wasn't my husband anymore. He was just Brielle's protective big brother. As his angry voice ranted on from the other end, I quietly pulled the phone away from my ear and pressed the end call button. That was the beginning of the end of our marriage. Even after hanging up, my hands were still trembling with anger. If anyone could understand, surely it would be his parents. Damon and Brielle's parents. Surely they would condemn their children's outrageous behavior. Believing that, I dialed my mother-in-law's number. After a few rings, she answered in a calm tone. No, not calm. It was the unervingly composed voice of someone who already knew everything. "Oh my, Marielle, what's the matter? You sound so flustered. Something terrible has happened. Brielle and Corin, they're in my house." Just like I had done with my husband, I desperately explained everything that had happened. But her reaction shattered my sense of reason even more than Damon's had. "Oh, I know, dear. Those poor kids were really in trouble. Corin lost his job, and they couldn't pay their rent. So I told them, why don't you stay with Marielle for a while? Her new house has plenty of room." "You told them what?" The moment she said that, I felt dizzy. So she was the source of all this. "Why didn't you tell me or talk to me about this first?" I somehow managed to ask, my voice barely steady. She answered with a curious, almost innocent tone. "Oh, why? Or family. No need to be so formal. You have such a big, lovely house. Letting them stay a little while won't hurt, will it? They always say you should help your own. It's a family's duty to support one another. Support one another." I had never heard that beautiful phrase sound so ugly. To them, my hard work, my property, and my privacy could all be nullified with a single word. Family. I was no longer merely angry. I was wrapped in despair. There was no way we could ever understand one another. We lived in entirely different worlds. What they're doing isn't relying on kindness. It's a crime. I have reported them to the police as trespassers. What? How could you do that? Do you want to give them a criminal record? My mother-in-law's shrill voice rose on the other end of the line, but her screaming no longer reached me. They really understood nothing. They had no sense of how abnormal their actions were. After I ended the call, I stood frozen for a long moment. My husband and my in-laws, they were all united, attacking my castle. The weight of that fact pressed down on me. Then my phone lit up again. The displayed caller was Brielle. Perhaps the questioning at the police station had finished. I took a deep breath and pressed the answer button. Maybe, just maybe, she would realize her mistake and apologize. It was a foolish hope, but one that still lingered somewhere in my heart. However, what came through the line was not an apology but a hysterical shriek instead. "Marielle, what are you thinking? What do you mean, what am I thinking? Don't play dumb. Because of you, the police treated us like thieves, and now the whole neighborhood's laughing at us. This is the worst. I can't believe it." She spoke as if she were the victim. I was too stunned to reply. It wasn't me who called the police. It was the Central Shield system. And it was you who used a spare key to enter my home, wasn't it? If I have a spare key, that means I can come in. I got permission from Damon and Mom. So why didn't you tell us about that alarm? You set a trap for us on purpose. A trap? When that word came from her mouth, blood rushed to my head, and a fierce rage surged through me. To them, my kindness and my property were nothing more than tools, things to be used for their own selfish gain. And then she said something truly unbelievable. "Anyway, thanks to you, Corin's so shocked he's bedridden, and I'm emotionally devastated. How are you going to make up for this humiliation? You better pay me compensation. Let's see, $12,000 should do it. Compensation." The moment that word left her mouth, something inside me shattered completely. My sense of decency, my moral compass. None of it meant anything to these invaders. Calmly but clearly I told her, "All right, Brielle. There's nothing more for us to discuss. From now on, you'll speak with my lawyer." "What? Your lawyer? What is this? Some kind of threat?" I ended the call before she could finish her sentence. Then I powered off my phone. In the brief silence that followed, I made a firm decision. No more mercy. No more leniency. I dialed my friend Lisa, my attorney. She's not only my closest friend but also a highly skilled lawyer who specializes in corporate disputes. When she answered, I calmly laid out the facts, keeping my emotions out of it. After listening to everything, she said, "Marielle, I'm impressed you endured this for so long. This isn't a simple family dispute. This is residential trespassing and a violation of property rights. And that demand for compensation, it could even qualify as attempted extortion." Her steady, law-grounded words cleared the chaos in my mind. "What should I do, Lisa? I don't want to deal with them anymore." "Yes, I know. That's exactly why you must not fight them with emotion but with the law. You have to build a wall they can never cross again. Now listen carefully. Leave work early this afternoon and go straight to the police station." Lisa's instructions were precise, calm, and completely confident. "Take the notes you made from the phone conversations and file an official report. Request the intrusion footage from Central Shield and attach it as evidence. Tell the police clearly. It was a family member's crime, but they show no remorse, and you fear for your safety." Fear for my safety. Those words made me hesitate for a moment. But they haven't actually hurt me physically. No, but this is about protecting your mental safety and your property, your life itself. Don't hesitate. This is your self-defense. You need to show them legally just how serious you are. Her firm words strengthened my resolve. That's right. I didn't need to be the kind Marielle anymore. I was done being the one who swallowed her anger in silence. I told my supervisor I had an urgent personal matter, left work early, and went straight to the local police station. The officer who met me was a kind-looking man, perhaps in his late 50s. When I explained everything and played the recording of Brielle's voice demanding money, her tone bordering on blackmail, his expression hardened visibly. "This is awful. Miss, you did the right thing coming here. We'll file your report officially. I'll make sure they receive a strict warning not to approach your property again." By the time I stepped out of the station, an unexpected calm had settled over me. The signal fire had been lit. This was only the beginning, the start of a long battle to reclaim my castle in the truest sense. On my way home, I discovered my phone filled with missed calls and furious messages from Damon. What are you thinking? Withdraw the police report right now. Are you trying to turn your family into criminals? Not one of his words showed concern for me. Every single message was about his sister, his parents, their reputation. Never my safety, never my dignity. When I finally got home, I called Lisa again to report everything that had happened at the station. She praised my actions and then spoke in a quiet, steady tone. Marielle, are you ready for what comes next? Yes. Your husband is no longer your partner. He's his family's accomplice. Can you really walk through life with someone like that? Her words pierced straight into the deepest part of my heart. She was right. I already knew the truth. This marriage was beyond repair. In fact, months ago, long before this chaos began, a divorce form had been quietly waiting in the back of my desk drawer. I'd kept it ever since the day Damon decided, without consulting me, to cover one of Brielle's debts. At that time, I had quietly taken a single divorce form and kept it like a talisman in the back of my study drawer. It was meant to be my last resort, my silent safeguard for the day I could no longer endure. I never imagined that day would come so soon. It was meant to be my last resort, the final card to play when I truly reached my limit. I never imagined I would have to use it in this way. I took out the divorce papers and, with steady, decisive handwriting, filled in my name and every required detail. Not a single tear fell. That night, Damon cut his business trip short and returned home in a fury, and I waited for him quietly in the living room. The moment he walked in, he glared at me like a demon. Marielle, what have you done? Brielle called me crying. She said the police issued a restraining warning. Yes, I think she got what she deserved. My icy calm voice left him momentarily speechless. Are you serious? She's family. Turning her over to the police for a small mistake is insane. Which of us is being irrational? Moving furniture into someone else's home without permission and trying to live there? Turning a blind eye to that? Demanding compensation while ignoring your own wrongdoing? I laid out each fact one by one. He had no answer. His lips trembled. Then I slid the divorce papers across the table and placed them in front of him. Our marriage is over. Your idea of family and my idea of decency will never be reconciled. I choose my safety and my dignity. He looked from the documents to my face in disbelief over and over again. Finally, in a hoarse voice, he said, "You'll regret this. I think you will." Those were the last words we exchanged. He packed his belongings that night and never crossed my house's threshold again. After the man who had been my husband left with a large suitcase in tow, I was left alone in the wide living room. I thought I might cry, but instead my heart felt oddly still. Rather than sorrow, I felt a thrill of readiness for the real battle that was about to begin. The next morning, the first thing I did was call a locksmith. A few hours later, the technician arrived and one by one replaced every cylinder in the house with new ones. Now, no one could open the gates of my castle without my permission. Next, I contacted CentraShield. I'd like to upgrade my security plan to the highest level. Also, please remove my husband and in-laws from the emergency contact list. Instead, register my attorney, Lisa, as the primary contact. The representative seemed momentarily surprised by my firm tone, but quickly proceeded with the changes. On the app, their names vanished cleanly from the list of registered spare key users. My castle's defense system became flawless. And for the final step, I opened the contact list on my phone. Damon, Brielle, their parents. One by one, I pressed and held each name. Block, then delete. I blocked all their social media accounts as well. There was no longer any way for them to reach me, not in the physical nor in the digital world. Staring at the simplified, clean contact list, I finally exhaled deeply. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel lonely. But more than that, an overwhelming sense of liberation filled my entire being. This was right. No, this was better. The second chapter of my life then began in my quiet, safe castle. Months passed after the divorce was finalized, and I became truly alone. My life was astonishingly peaceful. No more alarms blaring, No more unreasonable phone calls or demands. The weekends I spent on the inner terrace, reading in complete solitude, became moments of priceless tranquility. Of course, it wasn't as if I heard nothing of those invaders' lives afterward. Occasionally, a relative of my ex-husband, someone who still checked in on me, would tell me how they were doing. According to her, after the scandal, Damon was called back from his overseas assignment and branded within the company as the man who couldn't manage his own family. He was removed from key projects, endured uncomfortable days, and eventually chose to resign. With his pride intact but his independence gone, he moved back in with his elderly parents. Brielle and Corin, having lost their apartment, followed suit, moving into the same house. 5 adults living under one roof with pensioner parents. A once grand family became trapped in a cramped space of their own making. Corin is still unemployed, chasing vague business dreams that never materialized. Brielle, unable to let go of her taste for luxury, kept quitting every part-time job she found, and their living expenses were slowly draining the retirement savings of Damon's aging parents. I could think of only one phrase: poetic justice. And yet, my own heart was not entirely unscathed. That harrowing experience left behind a deep scar, a lingering mistrust of people. No matter how close someone becomes, a part of me would always keep a quiet distance. What if this person betrays me someday too? That constant suspicion seeped into my heart like a slow-acting poison. I knew I couldn't go on like this. I had to heal myself, rebuild what had been broken with my own hands. So, on Lissa's recommendation, I decided to meet with a highly regarded therapist. It was the beginning of a new kind of battle, a journey to rebuild the true walls of my inner fortress. Those therapy sessions became a precious time for me to re-examine the blueprint of my own heart. Dr. Selena Rowan, my therapist, asked me gently, "Marielle, why do you think you gave them the spare keys?" Her question struck me deeply. Without realizing it, I had granted them unconditional access to my personal space simply because they were family. I had achieved financial independence, yes, but emotionally, I was still trapped under the spell of that word, family. True strength, Dr. Selena taught me, isn't about helping others. True strength is having the courage to draw healthy boundaries in order to protect yourself. With each session, the ice of mistrust inside me began to melt away, little by little. Recently, I received a letter from my former mother-in-law. It didn't contain remorse or apology, only selfish hope. She wrote, "We're waiting for the day you change your heart and return to the family." After reading it, I quietly fed the letter into the shredder. And as the sound of tearing paper faded, I made a solemn vow. No matter what happens, I will protect this quiet, safe life that I fought for with my own hands.